Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm joined again by Abo, and we're going to be reacting to this Jubilee video. Can city teens and country teens see eye to eye? Personally, I'm someone who grew up in both spaces. I've seen the best of both worlds and the worst of both worlds as well. So I'm very interested. I kind of think that I want to see if the stereotypes come through, right? Like the country bumpkin versus the city
Yeah,
slicker. Let's see if that comes
yeah.
through. You good, Abu? You
I will.
good? You excited for
I'm
the
good, man.
video?
I'm good. I am. I am. Jubilee. I'm not really super into these videos,
Yeah.
but many people talk about them, so they clearly have some form of interest. I've watched a few. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I know a bit about the country and city too. And
Mm.
yeah, I'm kind of interested to see the stereotypes myself if they are going to be, or maybe have just advanced to a new level, and we
Yeah.
no longer
Because I
consist
feel
of
like
those.
social media might have brought teenagers together, like to a point of where there's a certain level of self-awareness, right? And
Yeah.
not, oh, I'm a
So
country
now they
bumpkin.
both annoy.
I ain't never seen an automobile before, that kind of
Yeah.
is not there anymore. But let's see. Let's see.
Step forward if you agree. City teens are bitchier than country teens.
What? What is bitchy?
Well,
What
of
what does that
course,
even
city teens are
mean?
more bitchier than. Sorry, mom and dad. Of course, city teens are more bitchier than.
Okay, maybe I shouldn't be in
Uh,
control because I keep pausing, Doug. Like, I thought she said sorry, mom and dad, because of her grammar, but then she went back and said more bitchier. Okay.
Country teens because you guys have so much more to deal with.
It's just kind of a rule out of safety where you don't even make eye contact with anyone because then you're putting yourself at risk because there's unfortunately a lot more bad people that are willing to do bad things in the city.
Can they disagree or step forward?
of course he's gonna
I want
disagree.
to say I'm a selfless person. I'm a nice person. However, I have that bitchy side. Me coming out as like a bitch is now just me making sure you know who I am and how I am going to run my things.
In the city, like even just driving, everyone else is so like selfish and self-important where they're getting where they want to be even if they're putting other people in danger.
I almost had a heart
That's
attack this
true.
morning
Mm.
when so many cars, like especially like in the city, they'll
Well, you wanna comment on that?
Yeah, I do a bit because it might be different, but like I
Mm.
said, I come from Eastern Cape, and coming to Joburg, the manner people just don't have manners. I wouldn't put it this way,
Mm.
who's more bitchy or whatever, but it's something as simple as patting a kid on the head,
Mm. Mm.
right? You're at the shop, you see a little kid, right? You freaking play with their hair or whatever, bro. They look at you like you want to kill them. It's like,
Mm.
yo, what the hell? Like in,
Yeah,
in, in East London,
like
freaking
you're a
have
creep.
kids smiling at you.
Mm.
It's like it's normal there, right? Like just
Yeah,
hello, you greeting everyone, and you know what I mean. And it's not even
yeah,
because of the community thing. It's just a rule of thumb that no one is out there to freaking, I don't know,
yeah, a hundred
hurt you or
percent.
whatever.
Um, I'm reminded of Charles Bukowski's Post Office, and he talks about this one postman. He's like an old guy. His wife has
Yeah,
died, and like the post is kind of all he's got. And one of the reasons why this old guy enjoys the post is that when he delivers the mail to people, he'll arrive in a neighborhood and all the neighborhood kids will swarm him because he goes to those
yeah,
neighborhoods with like candy and sweets in his pocket to give those neighborhood kids. And then Bukowski talks about realizing that a change, something like along the lines of, it's been a few years since I read this, but he says something along the lines of, there was a moment where he realized that like the world had changed, where when that old man came to that street, mothers clutched their children to their
mm,
bosoms, like, oh, you know what I'm saying? Don't go to the man with the
yeah,
candy in his pocket, even though
yeah,
Bukowski knew that that guy has no ill intentions. He's just an old man
yeah,
who's kind of waiting to die, and like doing this, delivering the post is one of the last meaningful things that this guy has.
Just cut you off. The drivers, they don't care at all. So I'm like, okay, so that's normal.
People learn more practical life.
Bro, as for driving, dog, living in the township, you learn that people drive how they drive, dog. Here, there is no rule except the rule of I got here first and don't hit my car. And that's it, dog. Niggas don't give a shit about anything else, dog. What was the
Practical
question?
life skills in the country.
Oh, people learn more practical life skills in the country.
I grew up in a
Well,
huge
practical,
family
yes,
of
that's
8
absolutely
siblings,
true.
and we've always lived on a farm, and I've had a lot of like life skills. Like now I know about plumbing and like water tanks and different things that I can now use in like my adulthood, like now that I'm not living at home.
My hometown specifically, the upstate South Carolina, is considered like industrial, so we have a lot of factories. So they teach you a lot of very practical hands-on skills, woodwork, auto parts, auto body. In my opinion, AAA is not going to help you
Exactly.
in the country. You have to learn how to, I had to learn to change my tire multiple times before I actually
I
fully
don't know
understood
how
it.
to change
Absolutely.
a tire. I've never done it once in my life.
My dad makes sure I keep a jack in my car.
Pause.
Yeah, I was
Pause.
just about to, yeah.
I'm wondering what those two nincompoops from the city are doing standing back there. Because I'm pretty sure both those people don't know how to change a wheel.
But you know what?
I'm pretty sure both those people don't know how
On
to
the point of changing a
fix
wheel
the thing.
or changing a tire, you know what's interesting is that the way I see it, like the only reason I know how to change a tire and all of that is because like my grandfather was a plumber, right? One of them anyway. One of my grandfathers was a plumber. And so, in fact, it's not even just that, right? It's like in the townships, education, especially like people who grew up like that apartheid era, education focused on giving you a specialty. You see what I'm saying? In that you can be and you can work as an electrical engineer, or you can do welding, or you can do plumbing, you can do mechanics. You know, they give you a specialty. That's the focus of education. You see what I'm saying? So in my family, a lot of the people who are older than me, they are people who have specialties. You see what I'm saying? People who know that I know electrical engineering, I know plumbing, I know, because that's what they were taught in school. So when it comes to something like changing a flat tire, some might say, as a man, you should know this, right? You should know how to change a flat tire. But I would rebut that with the society we live in is one where you can be indulged for any desire you have. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how to cook. Someone will cook meals for you and deliver them to your door. You know, so like sometimes women say that, oh, the value I have in a relationship is I'll make your house a home. But it's like, I can get a maid for that. This is the world we live in. I grew up with a maid. The person I know who cooks and cleans is the maid. You see what I'm saying? My mother cooks because she enjoys cooking, and she's taught the maid a few dishes. But the maid is the one, like, I don't associate cooking and cleaning with wife. You see what I'm saying? So saying that a man should know how to change a tire, I don't necessarily believe that. I believe that it comes with the utility in your life.
Yeah, but that's hence why people learn more practical skill in the country. That goes without saying.
Yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah.
The reason is that they have more assistance in the things that the country people have to do for themselves.
Yeah.
The country people probably don't have dishwashers, or not to the extent that the city people have.
City people do.
Like the idea of a dishwashing, like you put stuff in the thing and you press a button. It's like, to them, it's like, that's insane. Just wash the dishes.
Just
you know
wash
what I mean?
the dishes, yeah. Because it could never be the amount of dishes that would warrant you buying a machine to wash dishes like it. That's what it will be doing all day. You know,
for tens of thousands. You know, you're not just buying like some freaking handy $100 machine. You buy one worth 10,000 rand. You know, you're buying some expensive shit to do something you can do with your hands by yourself. That's not going to hurt you. That's not going to put any bodily harm on you. That probably takes about 20 minutes maximum. But anyway, yeah.
In case of that.
Would you say it's more encouraged for you to do more of that trade stuff that you learn, or do they encourage you to say, hey, feel free to go out into the city and learn the
They
technology?
give you the option, but going into the workforce was always a good option for people who maybe couldn't have afforded it and XYZ and stuff like that.
Yeah, personally, I've decided not to go to college at this moment, even though I graduated this past year. And I feel like I have enough skills to the point where I could get like jobs that don't require a 4-year degree.
A practical life skill is like human interaction. And I think in the city, you have a lot of opportunities to meet a lot of
Jesus
diverse
Christ.
people, different kinds of people. You have the ability to network.
Well, would you consider that social skills or practical skills?
I think social skills definitely are a practical skill.
But I feel like in the city.
No,
you
but
don't-
that's not what a practical, that's not what it means, dog. What are you talking about?
I don't
dog?
believe the country guy laid such a simple ball at her, like
Dog.
a through ball of the most epic proportion for it to be like, oh yeah, you've got a point.
I believe no, a social skill is a practical skill, but it's like no, dog. That's why there's the distinction, right?
Yes,
you can't say-
that's why it's a social skill.
You know, that's why it's a social skill, dog. You would never say fixing a tie is a
They
social
asked
skill.
about
You know what I'm
practical
saying?
skills. You don't need to communicate with someone to know how to change a tire. You know, you don't need like to communicate with the tires and to communicate. Come on, like why?
No,
why?
you know
we
what
even
it is.
explain
You know what it is, bro. And I find this happens a lot in any kind of debates that happen online and on the internet in the modern world. Really, is like people who live in bubbles don't want to feel inadequate or less
Yeah.
than because they live in their bubble, right? So it's like I'm not less than you just because I'm not confronted with the same problems that you have, right? Which is true.
Exactly.
That's a valid statement. You're not less than me.
Exactly.
But dog, you also have to have the
They
self-awareness to know that you
Yes.
can't do what I can do, right? I might live in Africa, which from the global perspective is like poverty central. But I know that
Yeah.
there's kids in the American South who can do things that I can't do because I've never had to
Yeah.
confront it. And it's like, I at least can acknowledge that. I can acknowledge that there's some kids who know how to hunt with a fucking bow and arrow in America,
Exactly.
white kids. I don't know how to do that. I'm African. I don't know how to do that shit. You know?
Bro, her answer is tantamount to, do you think country people knows have digital skills based the country? And the country guy is saying, yeah, of course I've got digital skills. I freaking have a TV at home. You know, it's like it's like that's not the question.
Practical skill.
But I feel like in the city, you learn skills that are also equally useful to living in the city. They're just not the same ones, right?
Yeah.
Like one thing I think about a lot is Uber. Everyone in the city knows that if something doesn't work out, something goes wrong, there's always an Uber. Assuming you have money, there's always like an option, someone you can contact. Whereas if you're in the middle of nowhere, there's not going to be an Uber, period.
Moving to Charlotte was definitely a culture shock for me. I didn't know how to use a parking meter. I charged myself 4 times on a parking meter because I didn't know how to use it.
Would you consider that a practical skill? That's the question, right? Because what is
No,
No.
that's not a practical skill. That's just being able to navigate a system, right? It's like
Yeah.
if I don't understand how the street light works with regard to the pedestrian street light, right? That the red means stop
Yeah.
and the green walking man means walk. If I don't know that, I'm going to, struggle figuring out when to
Yeah.
cross the road because that thing, I'm going to have to look at the actual cars because I don't know what that thing is. But the person who knows to look at that thing and walk when it turns green, that's not a practical skill. You just know how to use this thing, dog. That's like
Yeah.
saying, is making coffee at a coffee machine a practical skill? No, it's not a skill,
Exactly.
dog. A skill is something that you have to nurture and work at and get
It's
better
why
at,
I'm
dog.
curious at the Uber point that this guy was making. You know, the Uber point he was making is just testament to you have no practical skills because you can't think of a single practical thing you can
That you
do.
have to
I
do,
can
that
call-
you have to deal with.
I can call an Uber when I'm in trouble, but you can't because you're in the middle of the country.
I think they
What are
think
you
that a
talking
practical
about?
skill is anything that you have to physically do, which is weird.
Yes.
That's weird. You
Which is
can't
the
think
opposite
that
of
because
practical
you
skill. It's
physically
like-
called an Uber, that's a practical skill. That's crazy. I think I'm gonna steal that word from now on. Testamount. tantamount and testament mixed. Yeah, I could do that.
It's a practical skill in now society. Is
Right.
knowing how to use a parking meter? Like, that's odd to
Like,
think about, right?
Exactly. When I moved there, I just didn't know, and that's why I refused to even go towards the city limits.
I had sex education in school.
This is a good question. This is a good question.
Every single year of my sex education, we had to sign an abstinence vow in our books. We actually had a teacher get written up because she taught the girls' sex ed class how to put on a condom.
I think the importance that schools place on sex education is extremely lacking. Why aren't we worried about how good of people we're going to be? Because sex education also includes, sexual assault, rape. Like once we put our mindset into, we need to educate on things, not just science, math, reading. That's how you create better students. That's how you create better people.
My parents wanted to like.
Hold on. I'm just gonna comment on what she said, and I'm gonna try to be succinct. Aku no Hana. The reason why I really enjoy Aku no Hana so much is because it brings awareness to sort of the abstract difficulty and complexity that it can be to navigate puberty. Because especially if nobody teaches you the difference, because first of all, like Charles Baudelaire points out that there is no practical clear line between perversion and healthy sexual expression. You know what I'm saying? There is no clean cut line, And so for a kid to be going through puberty, a kid who at 13 years old probably thinks he knows himself. You know what I'm saying? A kid who's going through puberty and one who hasn't been taught at least some kind of difference between a healthy sexual expression and perversion, what do you think's gonna happen? It's crazy when they say that schools, high schools or colleges foster rape cultures, and then also those same schools don't do any sex education. How does that work? You know what I'm saying? It's like, you gotta teach the kids, bro. You gotta teach the kids about sex education, because at least for me, bro, the first thing we learned sex education like early, like 5th grade is when we started. The first thing they taught us about was what to expect when puberty hits and sexually transmitted diseases. We learned those like 6th grade, 7th grade, going into high school. And it's like, bro, when you're 12 years old, you'll never forget seeing what syphilis looks like. You know what I'm saying? When you get syphilis. And when you get taught that, you can get syphilis through oral sex too. You know what I'm saying? When you get taught something like that, you'll never forget, dog. You'll never forget. You'll be that guy, 16 years old, about to have your first sexual experience. She wants to give you your first blowjob ever. And the first thing you think is, oh shit, should I wear a condom? Because what if she's got syphilis? And your kids, it's highly unlikely that anyone has got any STDs involved, but because of the education, you're thinking about this shit, dog. You're wary. Like, I do not understand not teaching them and thinking this is what's best for the kids, to keep them from being indoctrinated into some sexual, like, living. Like, come on, dog, grow up.
People in the city have access to better education.
Where I'm from, it was very underdeveloped. 30 minutes away, there was private schools. There's always a private school with the better education, better funding. And we were having to have teachers travel just because.
I just want to know what the people in the back think.
Pause. Now, I want to know something from the people sitting down from the city right now. Listen, kids, I know you guys are teenagers, but let me tell you something I know about the cities. I know you only think the city is California and LA and New York, baby.
It's Chicago.
But it's also Compton.
Yeah.
It's also Brooklyn. It's also Bed-Stuy, and it's also Baltimore. And the education system in those places, if you're gonna put on average, the education system in the city, it is freaking dirt poor. compared to the country. At least the country's averagely average.
Well,
The worst in the city is some of the worst in the world.
That's
the worst in the country. Is terrible.
It's the question is access, right? Like it's not really about average quality, but access, and the people in the city have better access to to better education. I believe that's the question.
And most people in the city, the limit of the access is the public schools in the city, and the public schools are terrible. So I'm not trying to say that they don't have good schools and they don't have access to good schools. I'm trying to say that you have to put in perspective
how many
as a whole
good schools are truly available to people who live in the city.
This country guy right here made a perfect point right there. In the country, I live in a terrible place. But 30 minutes away, there's a private school with good education, right? But he's sitting here in the cities are better. He understands that even though that is there, there's still the terrible schools. These two sitting right here, these two probably going to be a couple in the future. They're probably going to get lattes together. They're gonna get skinny lattes.
Okay, I think your personal bias is coming in now.
The inner city schools are a mess in America. You can't look at history. It's there. That's where it is. It's not in the country. It's there. So I think the way they came and sat down like that, it's like, you didn't think about this, but you're teenagers. So it's okay. I just hope one day you get the perspective of it ain't just your little LA, Malibu schools that we're talking about. You know, it ain't just San Francisco, private school, Stanford that we're talking about.
Now these kids will go to Ivy League colleges where I'm going to community.
I think there's a lot more of a requirement to be educated in the city. If you don't get like a certain quality of education, like your options are just not going to be good enough to afford a lot of the lifestyles that people live in the city.
Yeah.
Where I'm from, it's the workforce, blue collars. We're the people who provide for the rest of it. You know? So if we can find a job without our education, that's more important because that's what's putting food on the table.
Exactly.
Why are we going to break our bank if we can find a job without one?
Sweden pays kids to go to secondary school, like high school, to go to school.
Yeah.
And the reason is because once upon a time, the college graduates became engineers, doctors, surgeons, and high-paying jobs, but there was no one to run the grocery store or be a mechanic or be a plumber. So a lot of the kids in school at the time were like, why bother finishing school when I can just go and be a plumber, run the grocery store, do that and make money, make bank. You run one of the only 3 grocery stores in all of Sweden, or more specifically your town or whatever, because it's such a small population. So it's like the government had to start paying kids to go to high school and finish high school and graduate, because if they didn't incentivize them, the kids would just opt to be mechanics and work in the grocery store.
The high school that I go to, it's heavily funded. There was one time I did go to an inner city school and I was like, whoa, this is different. They don't have what we have. I hate to bring this up, but sometimes when you go to those inner city schools, who do you see the most in those schools? And that's when it comes to the race factor. It's been seen in history that more Black and Hispanic schools, they often are less funded than these PWIs.
Do you think that's because of their race or because of just where those people tend to live?
We can start a whole entire conversation about redlining and how they're...
Redlining is a discriminatory practice by which banks, insurance companies refuse or limit loans, mortgages, insurances within specific geographic areas, especially inner city neighborhoods.
All packed there, and somehow they always end up to have the least funded schools, but that's a whole entire other conversation.
Where would you prefer to live out the rest of your days, city or country?
Country, bro. It's not even a question.
It's not even a question, bro. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened at what point, but that's been an image since I was in high school. Since I was in high school, I think for me, that was a big image of success for me, that if I make enough money and I find the right girl, settling down in
Yep.
a small town, in a place where we
Yep.
can just live and then die. Thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to the episode. We reacted to Can City Teens and Country Teens See Eye to Eye, and to me, it seems like everyone pretty much saw eye to eye on everything. They were willing to listen to each other, and I think
Adults, take notes. Adults, Twitter adults who think y'all run the world, take notes.
bro.
These teenagers, they listen to each other.
Don't even
these
call those
teenagers,
people, dog. Those
Yeah.
Twitter people, those people, dog. It's like talking to a brick wall that can talk back, but a brick wall doesn't have brains, so it's like it's not saying anything.